It's Halloween month, everyone. I thought we should take this week to look back at some of my Halloween classics. And you guys can decide which cake you're going to make. So of course, I caked a witch hat. Who is that? So one thing I love about witch hats and witches in general is witches are far more stylish than leprechauns. I'm really throwing leprechaun shade. You can decorate a witch hat any way you want. Velvet witch, velvet, but a buckle, some rhinestones, right? I don't think I'm this witch. But you do need cake rounds that get sort of consecutively smaller. So this is helping you to build a cone shape. I chose to make this cake black chocolate cake because I think it's really dramatic. It's still delicious, and even though you add black food coloring, you can't taste it in the cake. And then I had fun by making the buttercream in between orange. You could do green, you could do purple, you could do anything you want. You don't want it to look like a traffic pylon. You're not trying to carve a perfect cone. You know what I'm saying? So it could tilt to the side, it could tilt to the other side, it could be straight up, it could flop over a bit, whatever you want. Be the witch you want to be. So you build up the cone, you carve it, and then you creme coat and chill, ice and chill, standard. And now what you need to do is wrap the cake. So I'm not gonna say it's a beginner cake.
Just don't say that.
But I get in trouble whenever I suggest this. Please don't think that when a cake looks like this, you could drape fondant over it. Because the top is so much slimmer and pointier than the bottom, the fondant is naturally gonna wanna rip just from the weight of itself. So don't do that. And the truth is, this hat has a seam. Hats have seams, so it's natural. So this way, what you can do is roll out your fondant and drape it around the cone and then cut a seam on the back. And if you have trouble with it and your seam doesn't look great, then make it a busted witch hat. She fell off her broom, she got into a witch fight. You don't know. Let me put this back on, that being said. Now, oh, this is my favorite part, where I made a fondant paste and I did some seam hiding. Now, if I was a witch, I'd rather just say a spell and use my wand and hide the seam. But I can't really reveal that on YouTube, can I? No, so I did it the hard way. Once you've wrapped your cake in the fondant and you've cleaned up the seam, you can make the brim of the hat. Like, can we just talk about the fact that I wore these glasses? And the wig?
Why are you wearing glasses?
Because this is how to cake it. I decided to create a purple striped pattern going horizontally up the cake. So what I did is I rolled out some purple fondant, nice and thin, into sheets. I like to put those sheets on cake boards. And then I use a ruler and a sharp paring knife to cut these stripes. And I glue them to the cake with a little bit of water brushed on the back. And I used one of the fondant strips as a spacer. Oh, I'm making whimsical flowers. You know what? When I was making the fairy cake and I made my whimsical flowers, I was thinking, what cake have I made this on the channel? I did it a lot in the early 2000s when Mad Hatter cakes were really popular, but now I'm watching Witch Hat and I realize I made those flowers for the witch hat. I textured the brim of the hat even further before adding my cake with some black sanding sugar. So I brushed the base of the brim, minus the part that's gonna be underneath the cake, with clear piping gel, and then I sprinkled on sanding sugar, which is really cool. She's a glittery witch. Maybe she's a disco witch. I wasn't entirely happy with the edge of the brim of the hat, so I happen to have a mold that kind of looks like a strand of pearls, but they're flat on the back. I pressed black fondant into that mold and created several strands, and then I glued them to the edge of the brim. So she's a fancy disco witch. And now I can add my glossy, whimsical black flowers to the base of the hat, as well as some jewels that I made, also with a mold, and just add them here and there. You can have fun. You can decorate your witch hat however you want. If the decorations are heavy, you can use a toothpick or raw spaghetti to help you keep them in place. And then I added a feather. I added a non-edible decoration, a nice black feather. If I was a witch, I'd definitely have a feather. That's why I chose this hat. You know what I mean? Because it doubles as a wand. You could like take it out
Oh,
and cast spells. The next Halloween cake is my Halloween candy apple cake. I actually made 3 of these cakes. I baked my cakes in spear pans. I decided to make vanilla cake because it's sort of similar to the color of the inside of an apple. Remove it from the pan. Was that your foot moving the camera?
yes.
Remove each half, put it together, and then you can start to carve out the shape of an apple. Now, again, I'm not gonna say this is a beginner cake, but apples are a very forgiving shape because technically they come in a whole bunch of different shapes. So you really just gotta taper it and then make sure to carve a nice little valley in the top where the stem would be. Then you can glue your cakes together with some buttercream, ganache, anything you like, and that way the 2 halves of the apple stay together, and then you're gonna crumb coat and chill the apples, and then you're going to ice the apples. Now, this is a cake where the icing doesn't have to be completely perfect because again, apples aren't perfect. So if the skin looked super perfect on the outside, that would be weird. It would look like a manufactured plastic apple. I'm doing a golden apple, a red apple, and a green apple. Why do we have Jeremy? Oh, didn't a fan draw Jeremy? Wow. And what you're gonna do is roll out all 3 colors of fondant, drape your fondant on top and smooth it, and where the valley is for the core, you have to you can gently poke a hole with like a pin or a toothpick to release the air and gently sort of coax the fondant into that valley. Okay, I love the color of the green fondant. I was very proud of that. Now you have 3 apple cakes, golden, green, and red. It doesn't quite look like an apple because it's too matte. So what we're gonna do is pick some food coloring that looks natural, and you just wanna enhance the golden yellow color, the red color, and the green color of the apple. So we're gonna paint these apple cakes. We only have to paint the top half because the bottom half is gonna be covered in caramel and candies. Oh, I used white food coloring. Look at that. Why am I acting like you're not gonna show it to them? I love the way this looks. So I'm gonna melt my compound chocolate, put it in a piping bag, and that way I can pipe sort of halfway or a little more than halfway up each apple cake and just pipe it on, and as I pipe it on, I can smooth it out with a small spatula and really cover the bottom half of the apples as if they have been dipped in caramel. Once I've done this to all 3 cakes, I can start to decorate the cakes with whatever I desire. Of course, because these are candy apples, they need sticks. For the sticks, I am using dowels. These dowels are thicker than what I use to tier cakes, but they're the perfect size and they come 12 inches in length, which was perfect for the apple cake. And then I tied a matching ribbon. Oh, look, I'm eating cake. Wow. Scary though. It's a really just a jack-o'-lantern, right? Once my cakes are jack-o'-lantern cake, this is one of my favorite cakes, period, on the channel. I made this cake with black chocolate cake and a really bright orange buttercream in between because let's face it, the jack-o'-lantern buckets that you use to trick or treat are quite bright orange. Oh, look at me. So because, can I get the jack-o'-lantern? Not only do I have a jack-o'-lantern, we have mini jack-o'-lanterns. Wait, you don't have a jack-o'-lantern necklace? Because I do. Because this jack-o'-lantern, unlike a real pumpkin, is completely symmetrical, I need to make sure that I can carve it as perfectly as can be. I mark the halfway mark, and then I mark a circle on top, and I carve from that circle to the halfway mark. Then I flip the cake over and do the same thing. And this way I know that I'm carving evenly. Normally, I just go around the cake and carve. And that's fine when the shape doesn't have to be perfect, kind of like the witch hat or the apple. But in this case, because it's manufactured, it is perfect, so I want to keep that look. And then once I'm happy with the shape, I crumb coat the cake and chill, and then I ice it and chill. To make the handle, I used a floral wire. I rolled out a band of black gum paste, brushed it with clear piping gel, placed the wire on top, and then I trimmed the fondant and wrap it around the wire. The handle on this thing is quite flimsy. Like if you got a lot of candy, I feel like this would just break. Guys, I rolled out fondant and I only covered it halfway. Why did I do that? Is there a seam in the bucket? Why would I intentionally, oh, there is. I intentionally made the seam. I wanted it to be true to form and look manufactured. So I rolled out fondant, covered one half, cut seams at exactly sort of the halfway point on either side, covered the other side, and then trimmed the fondant to meet it. And then I used a circle cutter to perfectly cut out the top circle to create an opening. Wow! Look at her. Sometimes I'm impressed when she does something better than I do it now. I shouldn't be impressed, I should be concerned. Now I'm gonna create all of the indents in the jack-o'-lantern. So what I'm going to do is use a veining tool to just imprint them into the fondant. Even though they're present, they're not extremely deep, which is why I didn't carve them out of the cake. What am I doing? I clay extruded orange fondant and I used the grass faceplate. So it has several holes of the same size. Then when I got a strip that was long enough, I covered the seams with 2 pieces of really thin clay extruded fondant.
So there's more of the seam?
I accentuated a seam. Now it's time to work on the jack-o'-lantern face. This is the best part. Roll out the black fondant thin or gum paste, cut out the pieces. I'm also using the pieces of paper to cut openings in the orange fondant. This is classic, right? This is like the blue steel of jack-o'-lanterns, right? Like this is the trademark jack-o'-lantern smile. So I'm gonna stick with that, but you can do whatever you want. And this is the most fun part. You can fill the jack-o'-lantern cake with any candy you want. So here are 3 classic Halloween cakes for you. If I had to rank them in terms of difficulty, I would say jack-o'-lantern is the most difficult because it's manufactured and it looks the most perfect. Witch Hat comes in second, mainly because of its size, and Candy Apple would be the beginner version of the 3 cakes in this visit. So if you're gonna make one of these cakes, please show us, let us know below or tag me on Instagram, and I will see you next week.